Here we're looking for something that logically completes the text. It's one of our harder prompts because we have to understand the text well enough to be able to predict in our own words what might follow it. But let's go ahead and start. Mosses can struggle in harsh desert conditions because these plants require enough sunlight for photosynthesis, but not so much that they risk drying out. These researchers found several species of a type of desert moss growing under quartz crystals in the desert. To evaluate whether these semi-transparent rocks benefited the moss, the researchers compared the shoot tissue, a measure of plant growth, on the soil surface versus when the moss was growing under the quartz rocks. They found that the shoot tissue was 62% longer for moss growing under the quartz as compared to moss on the soil surface, suggesting that. So we're seeing that when the moss grows underneath this type of rock, this quartz, it was 62% longer. So the rock, the quartz, was beneficial to the moss. And that's what we're saying in my own words. And let's see which answer matches that. A, this is one of the few types of moss that can survive under semi-transparent rocks. That's probably true, but we're seeing that this moss benefits from the rocks, which is, if we find something like that, it would be better than this. B, quartz crystals do not transmit the necessary sunlight. That's kind of the opposite because we're seeing that it grew better with the quartz crystals. C, the moss growing under quartz crystal experience lower light intensity and are thus able to retain more moisture. That might work because there was an explanation in the beginning of how that's what the moss needed to survive. Let's go to D for now. Quartz crystals are capable of supporting the moss growth if the crystals are not too thin. We didn't really see anything about how thin the crystals were. So let's go back to talking about why C is right. In the beginning, we see the mosses can struggle because the plants require enough sunlight for photosynthesis, but not so much that they risk drying out. And if it survived well under this quartz crystal, then that must mean that the quartz crystal allow them to retain more moisture and not dry out. So the answer here is C.